Good morning and welcome to My Left Ear. I'm Carrie Freeman, the writer, producer, director of My Left Ear. It's Monday, October 30th. This is video 178, and My Left Ear has to do with that I get a lot of intuitive information, psychic information through my left ear, and it's a left-leaning political YouTube channel. And I do psychic commentary, and I use the ancient runes. So good morning and welcome. When I'm not here, I'm a change agent. I do private sessions, and all of that information is down below. I do psychic coaching, and I've been doing hypnotherapy for over 20 years. So feel free to contact me for information. I have a Patreon channel, patreon.com/Carrie Freeman. And what I do here is I disseminate news and then I add psychic commentary. And this is for entertainment purposes only. Now we begin. So this morning I just want to acknowledge the passing of Matthew Perry, acclaimed actor that was on Friends, that everybody loved, and super, super talented guy. And also was very famous for his struggles with addiction, made no bones about it. And I guess a year or two ago, he wrote a very powerful memoir about his struggles. And so they did do an autopsy. It was reported, his death was reported due to a drowning in a hot tub. There were no drugs or alcohol found in his home, and they're going to come out with an announcement on the actual cause of his passing. But it reminded me of a little story. And no, I never met Matthew Perry. I've met a lot of people, but I've never met Matthew Perry. However, when I was working in 8 years in drug and alcohol rehab, I had they just assign you people when they check in. So I got assigned to an actress who's very well known and has been nominated for things and really struggling seriously with alcohol. And in the middle of her stay, she got nominated for a Golden Globe Award, and she wanted to go. Of course she wanted to go. And she had been with us for about 2 or 3 weeks. She hadn't had a drink or anything like that. So they gave her permission to go. They test people before they go to dinner and when they come back from dinner. And so this is what they were going to do with her, is test her before, test her when she came back. And then I did my best with hypnotherapy to prepare her, because at the Golden Globe Awards, they are famous for lots of alcohol and drinking, like massive amounts of champagne. So it would be very difficult for someone who has not been sober very long, really touchy. So kind of had my fingers crossed and all that for this actress who I liked very much. She came back sober, and when we met to recap, what was your experience? How difficult was it for you? She said, after my category, and she didn't win, I went out into the lobby and I spent the rest of the evening with Matthew Perry sitting in the lobby drinking ginger ale. So God bless Matthew Perry. Very shocking, and people are heartbroken. And a lot of people talk about that he had a big heart, that he was an extremely kind man. And I think what a legacy to be talked about in that way. So here we go. I have told you I'm not experienced with foreign policy or history or anything. I am a Ukrainian Jew. This thing in Gaza, Israel, Hamas, it's just a nightmare. So I asked a few questions, and we'll see. The hostages, except for 4 so far that I know about, 2 elderly women, but Hamas has kept their husbands, and a mother and a daughter, a grown daughter, have been released. They're all okay. There's about 200 more hostages that I think they're alive, okay? But people are, worried about their safety because this war is really taking off. As long as these hostages are valuable to Hamas, they're probably going to be alive, and they're being moved around in these very sophisticated, advanced underground tunnels. Probably really difficult to find them. However, journalists in the know who are over there and in touch say that the talks are still going on about the hostages. So there's some hope there. Right now, I believe as of this morning, there is still no water, no electricity, no food. I think some of the internet has been restored so that the press can communicate. Maybe the medical community, I'm not totally clear. It's a mess. So it's hard to be accurate or completely clear about what's going on there. I may have mentioned to you that there are just thousands of pregnant women who are getting ready to deliver or who just delivered. And because they can't get humanitarian care into Gaza, these various women have been giving birth kits, like home birth kits. So, what can I say? You and I can't imagine. We just can't imagine. So we meditate, we light a candle. If you pray, we pray. So I asked the runes, will Israel and Hamas call a pause? A lot of people are calling for either a ceasefire or just a pause. And the pause, I believe, would be to get food, water, supplies into Gaza for the Palestinians, for the hospitals, and hopefully an opportunity to release hostages. So it's a tough one. The runes gave me an indication, not like, sometimes they're just clear, but they indicated that there could be a pause. My left ear, I have doubts, and I hope I'm wrong. I always say that. I hope I'm wrong when it's negative. But I pulled the rune of wholeness, which was a shock. But wholeness has to do with the warrior. Interesting. The spiritual warrior. Wholeness involves the impulse towards self-realization. And what's interesting now is, of course, Hamas, just feels like a group of animals to me. But they're wanting their wholeness. They're wanting their self-realization. Israel wants their self-realization. Palestine wants their self-realization. There is talk about finally coming down to two states. That feels a long way off. But the runes say through wholeness, a new, stronger, more solid, and higher foundation is created. Now, that makes me think way in the future, not around the corner. It speaks of opening up ourselves, letting light into a part of our life that's been shut away. That seems very airy-fairy given how atrocious these attacks have been. Now, here's something important. The rune says, in some instances, you may see fit to withdraw or retreat in the face of a pressing situation. That would be the pause we're talking about. Especially if people or events are demanding that you expend a lot of energy right now, and that's the truth. But it says, please know that a retreat, and I'm going to say a pause, is a pause in strength. I'm replacing the word retreat with the word pause, because that's what I'm asking them. Strangely, it says, this rune recommends that we let the will of heaven flow through us. It's definitely not a heavenly situation. And then embodied in this rune of wholeness is the energy of discrimination, like the sword, that cuts through and enables us to cut away the old, the dead, and the extraneous. There's a lot to cut away. The harshest message with the wholeness is telling us that we must let go or sacrifice an old way of thinking. Now that would be Israel, the Palestinians, and I don't know, Hamas doesn't seem capable of that. So there's inferences in these runes, but not the clear-cut, answer. And now to make it more confusing, I got the rune of joy, which is a fruit-bearing branch. It speaks to things finally coming together. I don't think things are going to come together for months, to be honest with you. But we asked about the pause. That was specific to this throw of the runes. So when it says things coming together, that may be, there may be a pause. Everybody's working on it right now, including President Biden. So this rune is emblematic of new clarity and understanding in regard to the current situation. So there is a partnering of some kind. It's hard to imagine that at the moment. Biden is supporting Israel in a limited kind of way because he wants to protect the innocent. It is a tightrope. It is the worst tightrope. And then I pulled a clarifier and I got the gateway. Gateway is about non-action and contemplation. It represents moving from one space to another space. And that is quite literal because of all the movement that's going on right now and people evacuating, getting out, going somewhere else. And it even represents the frontier between the heaven and the mundane. And with so many people dying, we are dealing with the heavens and the mundane. But this gateway is not to be approached and passed through without deep contemplation and thought, because enormous transformational forces are at work right now. So I know that was vague, a little vague. Once in a while, the runes just make me work extra hard to interpret. And what I'm interpreting, even though this is a little bit vague, is that there is a chance of a pause, but it won't be probably won't be this week. We'll have to see, okay? I'm doing the weekly runes a little bit later today, so I'm going to put those up also. I wanted to get this overall current situation out as soon as possible. So the weekly runes are coming, and that'll give us a little more information. So here's another question. There's a rumor on Twitter. Did Putin have a heart attack? There's these rumors are swirling, but they seem to be squashed, which makes me think there might be some truth. So I asked. Now, I got the rune of partnership about did Putin have a heart attack? That could be, did he die or did he have a heart attack? But I wrote heart attack. Okay, that's what I asked, heart attack. And I got partnership. And it says some partnership is at hand. Now, what I injected here is something that happens when someone is dying or very sick. It's like an agreement, a union, and partnership is considered a gift, but I see Putin surrounded by people that are caretaking him. But there may be freedom coming if Putin is, he can't function, if he's disabled, unconscious, or even if he expired. And I could really see that being kept secret for a while anyway. But there's buzz, all right? There's also partnership with the divine, which could indicate his death or his imminent death. It does indicate, the rune does indicate a period of increased talks and new contracts. And that makes me think of Ukraine. I feel that if Putin dies or he's completely disabled, the combat in Ukraine is going to start to decrease. I don't think anybody else in Russia that would take over for Putin, replace Putin, is perhaps interested in keeping this going. This was really Putin's thing. This is just my left ear. All right, now we got breakthrough, and it signals a major shift. And so if he were disabled or he wasn't alive, that would be a major shift, a complete transformation. And it says, for some, this transition is so radical that they are no longer able to live life the ordinary way. Full stop. That's an indicator right there. It says timing is right, but the outcome is assured, but not without surprises. That's from the book. And it does say that this rune is breakthrough is akin to being released from a quagmire. I wrote the quagmire of Putin's war and domination. That's what came to me first. The sudden release of energies may propel energy forward in a good way. So it's followed by a period of achievement and prosperity. And then the biggie on this question about Putin. Did he have a heart attack? Is he around? Disruption, the rune of disruption. And it talks about breaking free from constricting identification, which may take various forms. And it could be, this disruption could be so powerful as to rip away the fabric of what we previously knew. So that's monumental change, okay? And it can happen on many levels. There is no reversed position. So disruption is disruption. There's no turning it over with another story. Now, I wrote, during this time, one's relationships and partnerships may fail, plans may go awry, money supplies may empty, and Ukraine is expected to utilize their own strength and will, but with the breakthrough, there can be some limitations and delays. So whatever happens is going to kind of be slow and unfolding. And then, thinking that I already know the answer, I asked this question: will Trump be jailed before the DC trial on March 4th? Okay, and that's Jack Smith's territory. I got the rune of initiation, which comes with strong messages. It is not a gentle rune or a passive rune, but here's the deal. it says, it's called Perth. Initiation is called Perth. Perth clears a path for change. That feels so literal to me. Change would be the first former president being put into jail because he can't keep his mouth shut and he's endangering people. It does talk about the unknowable. So right now we don't know. We don't know if he's going to be sent to prison, jail, whatever. This rune can be telling us that Trump's situation is far different than what he perceives it to be. I think that's why he keeps pushing the envelope. He just doesn't think it could happen to him. Yeah, they're going to charge me money. They're going to sanction me. They won't put me in jail. And he doesn't know. And it says, these things are going on outside of your range of knowing, Donald Trump. Aside, like outside, you can't know what's going on. You can think you know. And there are important factors that are beyond his control. It speaks of secrets and the unknown, okay? But Perth has surprises and unexpected rewards. So if we turn on late night news, we might get breaking: Donald Trump is in prison, okay? Or first thing in the morning. And then finally, in regard, will he be, they think that the judge to do it is probably Judge Chutkan, who's in DC, the woman. The last rune on this question is fertility, which is about new beginnings. And before I even read anything here, the thing about new beginnings is if he becomes this first ex-president to end up in jail for making threats and violating, that is a recipe for new beginnings, like big time. So this is the intuitive part of our nature. It's an urge towards harmonizing, which is what most of the country wants, harmonizing and adjusting. So it says that this rune marks a time of joyful deliverance. And it says we have the strength to achieve completion or resolution, which opens up new beginnings. Now, the deal is that I'm understanding is that if he got remanded to jail because he keeps breaking the gag orders, he will stay there till March 4th. I don't know the details on that because he has other trials, but I guess they'd take him out of trial and put him in the courtroom and put him back in jail. That's what they seem to do. But it is emergence from a closed state. And I think if he's, certainly news will go insane. The people that love him will go insane. There may be even some breakouts of violence by MAGA crazies. But that it's a new beginning for us that want peace and leadership. So changes in the offing, await the deliverance with calm certainty. And then defense, avertive powers. This is the last one about Trump going to jail. And it speaks to the difficulties that can arise at the beginning of new life. There we go, the new beginnings. There's a thread, new beginnings. It may offer a time of waiting. So it may be we wait a little bit before he's remanded to jail, or he's in jail and we're waiting for him to start his trials, all right? It speaks to preparation for the future, because that would be the reason to put him in jail right now, is preparation for the future so that these trials happen according to law and not jurors being intimidated or hurt or harmed in any way. But it does say through inconvenience and discomfort, growth is promoted. So the answer is, I'm going to say yes. He's going to end up getting remanded to jail. And then we'll see what his attorneys do after that. And it will be insane. It will be crazy. Then I asked, I think this is the last question I asked, will Trump attend the Republican convention? And that would be July 15th through the 18th, okay? And there's an indication he will, but when I think about his mental decline, which I believe is actual neurological decline coupled with his personality disorders. So I'd be surprised that he could walk and talk by July, but you never know. This indicates that he will be there. It's a harvest. Then there's movement. Movement reversed, okay? It appears blocked. That's interesting. Why would it be blocked? Blocked because of his health? Blocked because they're cautioning him? You know, the GOP doesn't like him. They just kind of need him, or they think they need him. And the caution is be certain that what you are doing is timely. You have to recognize that all possibilities are not open to you. So that may be a movement that's what's the word? Blunted. The movement to go to the convention is blunted in reverse. And it says it's possible that it might be best to avoid action. Consider what is timely. And then we got separation reversed. Once again, it says, consider not only what will benefit you, but what will benefit others. Well, we know Donald Trump never thinks about benefiting others, ever. Total honesty is required, as you may be called upon to undertake a radical departure from old ways. And although I can't frame that with details, that makes a lot of sense to me. Radical departure from old ways. So the caution is, through negligence or refusal to see clearly, you may cause pain to others and damage to yourself. The indication being, if he does go to the convention, he may take down the whole GOP because, you know, we never know what's going to come out of his mouth, what he's going to do or say. So this is iffy. You know, the first rune on this, which was harvest, may be his intention. Oh, yes, I'm going. And then movement reversed, separation reversed. So it could be his health, that doctors don't want him to go. And I'll pull this again. There's a lot of time between now and the Republican convention. I will pull this again. And it might be why it's kind of in a gray area. But I tell you what, these last two runes are very cautionary. He might not be able to go, okay? And if he's in jail, they're not going to let him out to go to the convention. And he might be in jail. All right. I'm going to say a few words about the new speaker, a pundit whose name I can't remember, but he's not on the regular shows. He used to be. If I think of his name, I'll put it in the, I'll mention it later. I'll put it in the community section. But anyway, he's got a podcast. He's very smart. He's very funny. And he nicknamed Mike Johnson, the new speaker, Trump's Johnson. I'm going to repeat it. Trump's Johnson. And Johnson is a nickname for a male appendage. How'd I do, YouTube? Okay. I look him at as Harry Potter with Oliver Peoples glasses. I've thought about him being the Keebler boy. But I tell you what, it is known, Johnson, because he's so green and really doesn't know what he's doing, he cannot compete with Kevin McCarthy's fundraising. And one of the biggest jobs that a speaker has is fundraising. This guy doesn't have a clue. Case in point, and I'm not saying anything nice about McCarthy, this is just a fact. He was able to fundraise $500 million. That's pretty good fundraising. So they're taking a loss here with this little Trump's Johnson. Now, the minute I looked at this guy, because nobody had really heard of him, I looked at this guy, and the first thing that came was skeletons. The guy has skeletons in his closet. And what's really weird is everybody started saying skeletons. I could have been picking up, or somebody might have read me, and then it took off. But skeletons, everybody's talking about the skeletons. I'm not sure what the skeletons are exactly. I think they're a little possibly perverted. It's my guess. When this story is being investigated, so I may not have it completely clear, but the story is that when Johnson was 25 years old, he adopted a 14-year-old black boy, and they took him in when he got married. He and his wife took the young man in. It's very murky, but I read about Johnson's wife, and she is quoted as saying that she thinks homosexuality is very much like incest and bestiality. And there is a rumor that this Stepford wife supports and is involved in conversion therapy, where they take gay young people and they work on converting them through their Lord Jesus Christ. So this is a really creepy couple. Johnson he's on tape talking about incarcerating LGBT. It just goes on and on. He is a nightmare. But here's the thing. Everybody thinks he's a nightmare, except those few people in the House. And they are investigating him. And you know how good our journalists are. They're brilliant. So let's wait and see what they come up with. It appears that he has Russian ties through some companies. He's radical, and he erased all his podcasts immediately. But someone went in and copied them because they guessed that he would do that. So he's trying to close down information about himself. He won't last. My left ear. Mitch McConnell, this is just this morning. This is shocking, but it's good. Mitch McConnell just said on camera that funding for Ukraine must happen quickly. It's like one of the few times I've ever valued Mitch McConnell, but he said it. That's powerful. He may have to call up Trump's Johnson to discuss it with him, all right, as in his powerful position. So I want to share with you the next My Left Ear, because I didn't want this to be too long, and talk about picking up 5 seats in the House for 2024, wherein Hakeem Jeffries will be the speaker. Yay. And there are 7 candidates that we need to support. What I need to do, I have their names, but I need to see what state they're all from. And I'm going to supply that for you in case any of you are in those states. Next, My Left Ear, more about a Democratic Congresswoman is calling for a censure to Marjorie Taylor Greene with a long and detailed list of all her infractions that are very damning. I'm going to want to talk about Steve Schmidt, who you used to see on MSNBC. He's kind of dropped out. He's a very eloquent speaker. He's almost poetic, but he fooled me. He just threw his full support and advice behind a congressman named Dean Phillips. I never heard of Dean Phillips, okay? Steve Schmidt, an American political corporate strategist, has worked with Republican political campaigns, including President George W. Bush, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and John McCain. His claim to fame, which he'd like to forget, is Sarah Palin. Steve Schmidt brought Sarah Palin into John McCain's campaign. So someone wrote this. Dean Phillips, this new candidate, is one of the biggest head scratchers in national politics. As of late, he's a Minnesota rep. Okay. He's been publicly toying with this for several months. He joined the race by filing paperwork called Dean 24 Inc. with the Federal Election Commission. And this guy's up and running. He doesn't have a chance. I don't know why it's happening. I don't know whether, he's getting foreign money to do it, or he's just got this egotistical idea. We don't know, but I'm going to talk about that. And I am going to talk about a little bit, not being a doctor, but to the best of my ability, why I think what the crazy stuff that is coming out of Trump is much more than his personality disorder. It includes his personality disorders, but I firmly believe it is also neurological decline. So all of that I'm going to talk about next time. And once again, this afternoon, I'm going to do weekly runes to try to shed some light on all this stuff that's going on. So good evidence is political. The Georgia Supreme Court found severe gerrymandering by Republicans, the voters' maps, and ordered the GOP in Georgia to come up with a new map that includes blacks, because they submitted such bad gerrymandering that they were like blocking out all the black people. So good news for Georgia and good for the Supreme Court there to correct that. Really good news. And the quote, I'm just going to out myself. I've used this quote before, but right now it just feels like right. So I'm repeating it, and some of you may not remember it, so that's good. Here's the quote. It's by Mahatma Gandhi. Okay. Remember that all throughout history, there have been tyrants and murderers, and for a time they seem invincible, but in the end, they always fall. Always. Gandhi. So that's a little bit of a uptick, and I'm sharing that with you. Hold the high thoughts. We knew we were going to have huge ups and downs, and we persevere. We don't give up. The stakes are too high. Okay? So check in later when my weekly runes are posted. First, I'm going to do this one. Okay. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.